we'll talk a while. Stand under the edge here, we don't get wet. This time, we're portraying this area, this time of the country. If the Army would have came in to this farm, the people living in the farm would either they'd been for the redcoats, they'd been for the queen, the king, or they would have been for the freedom of our country and the colonial. So what would happen? If they were probably for the redcoats, we'd probably just kill them and take over anyhow. If they were friends, we would be nice with them and try to help them. They would help us supply with some of the food they have and produce, maybe an animal or two. Try to help the Army build us up so we can go on and fight the war. We're trying to make a free country here, right? So I would be a scout. And what I would be would probably I would be the child that was raised in there from that farmer, and I've been in this place all my life, and I wanted to leave. I wanted to go out and see the world. So I would join up with the Army. I would be a militia. I wouldn't have a colonial uniform or anything, but I would just have what I had, my regular hunting, my regular living clothes. Now later on, if I decided to stay in for sure, I would probably have a shirt with a red ring, which was and a red neck, which meant I was an enlisted man at that time. So probably what I would do, since I just enlisted, the commander would say, look, we're going to Williamsburg, Virginia. We're going to go through to Beckley. What do you know about the country? I was raised here all my life. I said, we hunt, we go get for supplies in Beckley and things. I know it well. Take one of my men. I want you to go for 3 days, report back to me. I want to know if there's any Indians, any British, good place to hunt. If there's any buffalo, elk. They were all here at the time. Anything. It could be a place to camp, water for the horses. Of course, only your high-ranking officers had horses. The rest of us, we walked. And we'd go back in 3 days. I would come back, and I would probably say, the man that went with me, he sent with me, may have stayed, so we saw some elk. He stayed to kill an elk to have it ready when we got there. He would send me back, and I said, we didn't see any Indians, we didn't see any redcoats, it's safe to move, we can travel on. Now, some of the things I would travel light. I may have enemy around me all the time. I never know if the enemy's there or not. So if you're going on a trip, you can put your clothes in a what?
Suitcase.
Right, this is my suitcase. This is also my motel. There's a rolled up, in this there is a wool blanket and a piece of tarp. This linen is about 4 feet wide and about 6 feet long. I may lay it on a log like the size of this and lay down a little slit and crawl up under there with my blanket rolled up to survive. I was a frontier scout. This was the rugged, roughest of the roughest guys. That's why they'd pick us up, these farm boy mountain boys, because we knew the land, terrain, how to survive. They pick us up. So in my suitcase, I would carry an extra pair of moccasins. Today's wet. I'm going to have my feet wet. Most important one of the things you could have would be something that comes in this little can, right? And that's a bar of what?
Soap.
A bar of soap. Why would a bar of soap be so important on the frontier? We were just talking about walking outside. I have moccasins on. By the end of the day, I'm going to be in mud, water, rain. At the end of the day, my feet are going to be what? Soaking wet. Your feet get wet, get nasty, stay that way. You get blisters, you get infection, you get foot rot, you get blood poison, and you die.
Right.
You don't wash your body, you wash your feet. You always carry an extra pair of socks. I would wash my dirty socks, take them off, wash them, hang them on here, let them dry as I march. Put my fresh socks on, my fresh moccasins. Save my soap. I wouldn't dare wash my body, just my feet.
Right.
That's one of the things you would carry. Also in there, you would carry your food. You would carry some food in here. You'd also carry some food in what you call your haversack. This is your backup survival kit. You would have 2 fire kits. You'd keep 1 fire kit, flint and steel here, 1 flint and steel in here. You may carry sewing kit. You probably want sewing kit. Sewing kit's very important on the frontier because if you rip your clothes, tear, need a button, you got to fix it. If you get a bad cut, need stitches, or get shot, you may have to sew yourself up, or your friend may have to sew you up. That's just the way it was. It was rough on the frontier. And on the frontier, when times were good and times were nice on the frontier, they had rum rations. This was a rum ration. They might give you this full of rum, okay? Let's say I don't drink, but you drink. Just saying. And you'd make moccasins maybe. And I would say, hey, I'll give you my 4 days rum ration if you make me a pair of moccasins. And you say, okay, that's a deal. So it was a way of trade in form of money and moving around. Also, beads. We on the frontier like their beads. They like their necklaces. Indians had the best. So you're an Indian. You're a friendly Indian. And I meet you somewhere along the trail. And we don't like to talk, but you're pointing to my cup. And I say, oh, she wants my cup. And you have beads on your neck. And I go, I'd like to have your beads. So I might say 5 beads, and you say, okay, so we make a trade. I eventually get what I need. You got what you need. You'd carry a tomahawk. You would carry a knife, and you'd also carry your gun. You did your powder horn. You keep your bag on you, your canteen. Now your canteen, did you see the canteen he had over there, how shiny it was? Okay, if I had a shiny canteen going across that hill and the sun was shining, I'd be giving away. So this wool is camouflage. Not only is it camouflage, but if I got a hot day and got cold water out of the creek, it would keep this water nice and cool. The wintertime, this would be insulation. This is called a kidney belt canteen. If it's on my kidney, it stays warm. My water doesn't freeze. Okay? So that's 3 things you would have in that. Of course, these are my tools on my bag I would carry for my gun. Measure my powder, my brush, and my pick to keep it hot, dry, keep it going. My haversacks, my second bag. If I was running the tack, and they got my suitcase with all my stuff, I still got just what I need, bare necessities, some food, and a way to make fire in this bag to sustain my life, to keep me going. So that's very important. Your food, you may have a bowl that you could have bought, traded, or maybe made yourself, whittled out, sitting around the fire. You may have a tin plate that you would carry. Some guys might not carry the extra weight, they would carry 2. This is a horn spoon made out of a horn. They would heat this flat, and then they would take like a wood divot in the mold or something. They would mold this out and make a horn spoon. Now, this would be a 3-prong, period correct, Revolutionary fork. If it's 4, it's Civil War, but that's a 3-prong at the time, so that would be period correct. And that one is very, very old, and maybe right at the, maybe an original sport would be this one.
Yeah.
You can poke it and dip it.
Yeah.
That's your sport right there. If times were good and you could kill turkey, whatever, you'd have spices. Most of the spices they carried in the front team was salt, pepper, cayenne, oregano, and cinnamon.
Oh, yeah.
That would be little bottles with the little corks they would carry. Now, salt was good for curing your meat and hold it. Cayenne pepper was used a lot for the simple fact meat was usually tainted and old and it was getting rotten, and it would kill some bacteria and it would keep you. It's harvest season right now. If we were in this camp this time of year, this lady lives in the farm over here. She's for us. She may give me some tomatoes, a cucumber, and a potato to eat as I go on my journey, which is pretty good eating. What I may eat to sustain me would be, this is my corn bowl. This is my little pot I cook, and this is my 12-piece kitchen set, right? So some of the things I may eat would be a piece of hardtack. Go ahead and tell me if you can take it. See if you think it's just dough, flour, and water, and some salt.
Would you have to
It doesn't taste good, and it gets hard, but it will sustain you, and it lasts about forever. I couldn't eat this, so if I couldn't run, couldn't cook, or couldn't make a stew, I might just take a chunk and knock the rock, put it in my mouth for 20 minutes. Build a fire, I may put this in this pot, drop it in there. I may find some bees comb or whatever. You can chew it like gum, eat it. It's got value. I could have that. Some more hardtack, just a little different kind of hardtack. One of the other things you would have would be jerky. Everybody knows what jerky is. It could be turkey, it could be beef, it could have been elk, buffalo at the time. Any kind of meat that's dried and cured, you can eat, which would be the good thing to eat. Maybe put in there in my pot with it. I may have some pemmican. Now your pemmican is simply just dried beef, tallow, salt, pepper, and this has been found thousands of years old and still good, still edible, perfect shape. Now if you add raisins, apples or something, it still lasts a while, but it's not going to last forever. You're going to have to eat it up. But you could add some pemmican if you had it. Now this is maybe this time of year, if at camp, women follow troops a lot of times, wives and women and stuff, and they would make you could make it, and they could make like this with strawberry in it or some kind of berries, blackberries or something, add to it to make it better. This is a strawberry one. It's just going to taste better. It's not going to last very long, but it's going to be good eating. I might put that in if I could build a fire, build me a little fire, a little bit of water out of my canteen, have a little stew, kind of potluck. You got a piece of fungus. A piece of fungus would be important. Like today, you could put a spark in this fungus. It'll hold. Put some grass or something over it, carry it in your can or basket, and every once in a while blow it a little bit to keep it spark, so you get an easy spark. Cordage was important. If I broke a shoestring, I got cordage. If I had this bedroll out and I got tied up in the wind to a little tree or something to hold it, I could use it. I could use cordage for multitude of things if my horn broke or something. So cordage was important. Rawhide was good, but you used whatever you could get. On the frontier, lead was of an essence. It was hard to get, was lead. So there was a battle going on. When it was over, you'd go out to the dead bodies and you would take all their bags and all their lead. Okay? Some of the lead in here is not the size of my gun. It's bigger or smaller. So you carry these in your bag. You would take their lead, put a stick in this, hold it over the fire while you're sitting around, and make your own bullets. Make your balls for your size. Carry a whistle for signal whistles for two little bleats mean we're okay, or maybe for signals for whatever they would do. They could carry whistles. That's a little whittled one out of wood.
Yeah.
Your guns. Now this is part what really changed the Revolutionary War. The Continental Army and the soldiers, we were hard time. We were, one time we were trying to eat our boot leather. There wasn't any food, starving to death. Well, they'd meet these country boys like this. It was real important to the family and keep the family rolling. These guys became super marksmen for a simple reason. Different gunsmiths and people came from different countries and had different ideas and different ways of making guns. And the Pennsylvania rifles, the Kentucky long rifles became the guns of choice for accuracy. They were way ahead of their time. They were using a lot of military smoothbore guns that were made in bulk over in British. They would send them over and they wouldn't shoot very far. 50 yards maybe I would aim at you and hit you. They weren't that accurate. Now, when we would fight the enemy, usually they would be, you always see how they fight in lines and they always in the field. Well, we would be down here getting ready, and we had these old country boys with these Kentucky mountain rifles, these Pennsylvania rifles that can shoot 300 yards. The horses, the men on the horses were always the men in charge. That was your high commanders. So they would take those marksmen and they would shoot those guys off. Well, then they had chaos. Nobody was in charge. Nobody was the boss. Nobody knew what was going on, so it was kind of chaos. Well, the old Marion down in South Carolina thing started fighting kind of guerrilla style, hiding behind trees and rocks, and kind of got started. So they'd kind of let them hoax in a circle or get in there, and they'd kind of circle around them. Well, you couldn't shoot 50 yards. Now, they shoot a long way, but they're not accurate. They just pick them off. So all the gun manufacturers in different ways, and people from little gunsmiths and little towns and gunsmiths made these high-tech rifles that were way ahead of their time. They had these country boys which were excellent marksmen. And if you probably heard his spiel, they would run us up front to shoot first. And then when it got close, we would move back because the military, the colonials, were good with bayonets and fighting. They would let them take over from there. So basically, with using their heads and these rifles and some good old country boys that were frontiersmen, militia, we made this place a country. And that's what we would do. You may take a basket or something to go, something to carry your stuff in, other than this, but most of the time that was the preference thing, was your bedroll and go.
It's amazing.
Rum was also, with your rum, you could put your rum some in a rum flask and keep your rum, even if you didn't drink, because it was antiseptic. If you did get shot or cut for pain, you could, clean it. Now I carry, a lot of times people say, why does everybody wear these? Why they got a neckerchief? Well, this neckerchief is my bandage. It could be my wash rag. It's my pot holder.
Right.
Mainly what they're doing is they have what they call a neck knife. And what you do is when you have your gun and you're loading and you're fighting, you lay that patch up there and take that knife and cut a piece off, mesh it down there with your gun and your ball, and you shoot. So that's why ours was ragged and nasty, and that's what they're probably going to look like anybody's been fighting out in the wild.
Right.
So it was important in your little knife to cut it, with your patch knife. And basically, you were the man that had nothing that did it all.